It was a cold spring evening in Bavaria, Germany, March 31st, 1922. In a small, isolated farmstead called Hinterkaifeck, 6 people were living their quiet rural life, or so it seemed. And yet, within the next 24 hours, every single one of them would be dead. This is the story of one of Germany's most disturbing and unsolved crimes, a mystery that has baffled police and historians for over a century. Andreas Gruber, 63, and his wife, Kazilia, 72, were the heads of the household. They lived there with their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, 35, and Victoria's 2 children, Kazilia, just 7 years old, and little Joseph, 2. Also in the house was their maid, Maria Baumgartner. She had just started working at Hinterkaifeck that very day. The farm was far from neighbors, surrounded by fields and forest. To get there, you had to walk a dirt path that seemed to stretch forever. In the days before the murders, strange things started happening. Andreas told neighbors he had seen unfamiliar footprints in the snow, leading toward the farm from the nearby forest, but none leading back. He also said he heard footsteps in the attic at night, but when he searched, he found nothing. A set of house keys went missing. A strange newspaper appeared on their porch, one that no one in the family had bought. The family was uneasy, but they stayed. Sometime that evening, the killer or killers made their move. We may never know exactly how it happened, but investigators believe the murderer somehow lured the family out to the barn, one by one. First, perhaps Andreas was attacked, then his wife, Kazilia, then Victoria, then little Kazilia. Each was struck in the head with a mattock, a type of pickaxe, killing them instantly, or almost instantly. After the 4 family members in the barn were dead, the killer went inside the house. The maid, Maria, who had only been working there for hours, was killed in her bed. Finally, 2-year-old Joseph was murdered in his cot. It took days before anyone noticed something was wrong. Neighbors saw smoke from the chimney and assumed everything was fine. But by April 4th, concern grew. The children hadn't been at school, Victoria hadn't been at church, and the Grubers weren't seen in the village. Neighbors entered the farm. In the barn, they found a pile of hay covering 4 bodies. Inside the home, they found Maria and Joseph. All 6 had been dead for days. The most disturbing part? The killer had stayed at the farm after the murders. Evidence showed that cattle had been fed, meals had been cooked, and the chimney had smoke coming from it in the days after the killings. This meant the murderer might have lived there for several days, with the victims lying dead just meters away. The police questioned dozens of people, former suitors of Victoria, neighbors, even complete strangers. One theory was that Victoria's late husband hadn't actually died in the war and had returned for revenge. Another was that Andreas had enemies who wanted the whole family gone. Some even suspected multiple killers, perhaps people who knew the farm well. But despite interviews, searches, and forensic work, no one was ever charged. Over the years, many suspects have been named: Carl Gabriel, Victoria's husband, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor rumored to be Joseph's father, even traveling workers and vagrants who passed through the area. But every time, the evidence was circumstantial. Nothing could be proven. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's darkest mysteries. 6 lives taken in brutal fashion. A killer who may have lived among the bodies, and more than a century later, still no answers. Standing in that quiet Bavarian countryside today, it's hard to believe such horror once happened there. And maybe that's the most chilling part. The murderer walked away and was never found.